All right, all right, all right.
Oh,
Welcome in, all of you. Welcome into Doing Hopeful Things. I'm Dr. Bertice Berry.
and I'm Reverend Jimmy Marsh.
Yes, you are. And look at you looking all good and stuff. Look at you. Got your dimple
I,
ready.
I put I put on a collared shirt.
Ooh, that is a hopeful thing. That is a very hopeful
It's a
thing
hopeful
for
thing.
you.
Thank God it can only be hopeful twice because I ain't got but two of them.
Oh, that's
Well, two
good.
two of them are two of them that are without kind of Western patterns. I thought it'd be best to just go with something
Uh,
kind of standard blue. I've got blue and green, and then I've got
oh,
a lot of and then I've got a
so
lot
are
of pearl
you?
snap shirts.
Those of you who are joining us and a part of this, I want to know, and you can let us know. Are you Reverend Jimmy? Are you one of those people who has like a closet of the same things and few items and everything's this kind of the same?
I have more items than I use. So I
Hmm.
think I look at pictures I look at pictures in the last 5 years. I'm wearing the same three shirts and all of them.
It's not a bad thing because I
I
make
don't
my
know.
own clothes. I have more variety than I've ever had. But I would have been one of those President Barack Obama people who has the same thing four times so that you just grabbing it. You think less. You spend less time thinking about what you should wear.
What does your closet look like?
Heaven.
But you've been making your own clothes. That is a fascinating. I would
Yeah.
we could talk
Yeah.
for we could have a podcast called Doing Hopeful Clothes. I don't know.
Yeah, we could. Well,
Making
it came
hopeful
from a head
clothes.
injury. It came from a head injury. And actually, we're going to get into that in a little bit through this meditation. I knew a lot of the work that I'm doing now came from the process of healing through that head injury. And one of the things was you take this 13-inch journey from your head to your heart because the heart is smarter, right? And
Mhm.
then you remain open to what comes because the heart is
Yeah.
smarter. And one day something said, make a dress. So, like rather than today's theme, let me tell you about today's theme. Today's theme is good trouble. And actually, um, the Story Ministry Institute for Story that's here in Savannah, Georgia, with Hospice Savannah, in partnership with Hospice Savannah. StoryCon, which is the story conference that's held annually. This year will be the fifth year. People from all over the United States come together. There's a story group on Facebook with over 7,000 members of people who share their stories. All of that work,
Wow.
all of it came from taking that journey and this meditation that we're going to go into right now. So every time you watch Doing Hopeful Things, we'll do a guided meditation. We'll share the theme. We're going to have a guest, and you are also a guest, and you are also a part of this conversation. But I would love to say close your eyes, but every time I say close your eyes, I can hear my mother saying, that's how you get your pocketbook took.
Well, seeing as though we're in our homes by ourselves, well, I'm by myself. I don't know. I'll close my eyes.
You don't be speaking for me. You don't know who up in here. That little skank that got in the other day. Well, anyway, we
Go
could talk about skanks. It's called a skink, not a skank. But
okay.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Clearly,
Lord help
let's
us.
talk about the skanks in your house.
Uh, we don't have enough time. I don't know.
Okay, okay. Deep breath in, let it out. Deep breath in, let it out. I was asked the most important question one day from Dr. Naeem Akbar. And he asked the question, why me here now? Using that as a guiding principle, take a deep breath in, let it out. Deep breath in, let it out. And just with why me here now in the background, That's a deeper meditation, and we don't have enough time for that. I want to ask you, what do you know and what does your community need? Just ask the question, what do I know? What does my community need? Take a deep breath in, let it out. Deep breath in, let it out. See all the things that you know, all the things that you've learned, all the things that you have become an expert in, all the things that you love and would do without pay. Take a deep breath in, let it out. See your community. Now expand on it. Go beyond the physical place where you live, the place where you worship, the people you know. That's your community right there. Deep breath in, let it out. I want you to see them just joyful, happy to see you walk up. You have shared with them what you know. You didn't try to run into somebody else's lane or somebody else's stuff, somebody else's knowing. It's your own knowing. Take a deep breath in, let it out. Deep breath in, let it out. Deep breath in, and let it out with a ah. And I would normally count you down, but we're going to just come on back to center, to this time, this place, this knowing. There is a wonderful Arabic proverb that people often attribute to Paulo Coelho because he shared it in The Alchemist. It's an Arabic proverb that says, when a person seeks their purpose, the universe conspires to answer.
Amen.
And I simply asked that question when the pandemic started and all of my
Wow.
contracts went away and everything was canceling one after the next, after the next, after the next. And I knew that I had MS and we were, this thing was coming that nobody knew what it was. And the weaker people were possibly going to go. And I knew I held within me things that I knew, but I knew my ability to speak to people, to go out to people, to be among people was going to be completely gone. All of my income was going to be completely gone. And so instead of worrying about how I would live and what I would do and how I would make it, I simply asked, what do I know? And what does my community need? And after I did that, like just that same way, my phone started
Mm-hmm.
ringing. And five people who were deeply, deeply depressed said, I don't know how I'm going to make it if you can just talk to me, if you can just help me. And at the end of each of those calls, and I mean, they were ready to check out.
Mm.
At the end of each of those calls, they all said, oh my goodness, thank you. Can I call you again tomorrow? And I said, yeah. And then I remembered that I had gotten this ability to sew and I'd made some fabric for Seattle Children's Hospital. I designed fabrics as well. And this particular fabric had their logo. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, I also know how to sew. I'm going to find a pattern to make a mask for them to cover their N95, the special
Oh
mask they
wow.
have.
Yeah.
They had
Yeah.
not announced a shortage. Nobody had said there was a shortage of PPP. Nobody had said that they needed it. I just started
Mm-hmm.
making these masks, and I took a picture of them, posted them, sent them off. I think I had enough fabric to make 100. They wrote back and said, "Can we get more?" A friend who's a surgeon saw them and said, "Can I get more of those?" So why would you want my cloth masks? She said, "What are they made out of?" I said, "Cotton." She said, "Perfect." And I got the pattern from
Mm-hmm.
a woman at a hospital in Boston, had made one some time back. When I looked at her page, she had like 3 views. And I was like, great. So I made these things, I shared them, and then I started making them. And then other groups and people locally, and then the news called and said, can we get these masks? How do we get, because nobody had them. Nobody had announced a shortage yet. By the time the pandemic was over, we made and distributed over 30,000 masks.
Wow.
Because I was sewing every day, these five people, I couldn't talk to them and sew at the same time, which is why my nails are bright orange. It keeps me from running my finger under the needle. And these masks, you gotta, they're intricate. It's the way you have to do them. So I can't do it. So I said, well, I'll record them and I'll share them on Facebook and they can look at them anytime. Now, I didn't know my posts were public. I didn't use Facebook often. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that other people could see them. Then other people were seeing them and messaging me saying, oh my goodness, the American Psychology Association contacted me and said, can we use this message for our conference? And I was like, sure. And they said, well, what will you charge? I was like, they're online, they're free. And so they said, oh, well, we'll name a star after you. They did that thing where they purchased a star and they named it after me.
Uh-huh.
And I just kept doing it. And then I found out that they were going viral. And that came out of, what do I know? Then somebody contacted me from Hospice Savannah and said, we need you on on our board. I said, I just decided I can't be on any more boards. I've got too many things to do. And they said, well, just look at our website. And I looked at the website. I'm like, this is important stuff. My mother would really want me to do this, but I don't have time for this. And then I clicked and they had a story keeping ministry service where they would record last stories. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I contacted the guy who was the head of the foundation and he said, we need to talk. We need to build an institute for story. And I was like, you had me
Wow.
at hello. So all
Wow.
of this came out of, what do I know
Uh-huh.
and what does my community need? And then the universe conspires.
Yes. Yes. I can't. First of all, thank you for telling me that story. You and I have known each other not for a long, long time, but we've done a lot
Good
of
time.
these through Facebook Live. I have never heard that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, Bertice. And the way that you pulled it back, we started talking about making dresses and a collared shirt. I don't know. That's how we roll. That's how it happens.
That's
That's
how
how
it
it unfolds.
happens.
Well, you know, there's the saying, I think it comes from the famous poem, anonymous poem, Desiderata, and it says, the universe is unfolding just as it should. So there's an
Mm,
unfolding that happens when we are,
mm,
that's the whole thing around the co creatorship with the divine.
yes.
Um, Frederick Buechner, Presbyterian pastor and writer, um, in the 20th century, late 20th century, he has a, I'm going to try to not mess it up, but he says, the call, your call is at where your deepest hunger, where your deepest joy meets the world's deepest hunger. Where
Mm,
that's not call, but that's where your space is. My mentor Gordon Cosby at Church of the Savior, he talked about call, your call being something that you can't shake.
yeah.
You can't shake. It stays with you. It has to be something that just is your. It's not something you want to do. It's something you can't help but do.
Hmm. Yeah, I was in the process of, I just started the discernment process for the diaconate, which is a deacon in the Episcopal
Mm-hmm.
Church. And well, it's a diaconate is diaconate throughout the world. But it was then that they said, well, what would your ministry be? And I was doing 10, 50, 11,000 things, but I had just started sharing the stories. And there was a woman in the discernment group and she's just there with her eyes closed and rocking because there's a committee. You don't discern alone, which
Wow.
is just
No.
beautiful, right? And
Yes.
she's just kind of rocking and she said, I'm just feeling something about this story thing. And it was the least of the things that I do that I thought would be where I would land, right? And so she said that, and that night I came home and I got this long message from someone saying how the stories had saved their life. We're going to meet We would meet around a table, and everybody had to be so much distance apart. And we got on masks, and we're discerning together in this masked environment. And then right after that, we had to go to all online, and it was just really, it was incredible. I want to shift because we've got a tremendous guest who is the very definition of doing hopeful
Mhm.
things. And while, he sees it as just a part of who he is, it is the goodest of good trouble. And from my, my little, name in the black people, black world perspective, it is the goodest of good trouble. And you introduced me to this amazing man. So I'm going to
Yes.
ask you to introduce him to our listening audience and watching.
I first want to say he's a big brother and mentor slash friend slash colleague slash uh, good trouble partner. I would like to say Mike is a Renaissance man. He's a preacher's kid from the Midwest. Um, I'll let him tell some of his stories that show that he was a bad preacher's kid. He was the kind of preacher's kid you wanted to. It's the stereotypical preacher's kid. But Mike had a hunger early in his life for social justice and for community organizing. And that took him all over the world, but it landed him in his first job running a homeless shelter in Muncie, Indiana. And
Mm.
from that, he got into Mike has been arrested over 30 times, I think, um,
Ooh.
for civil disobedience and moved to
Mm.
DC to get into that world in a big way. And he found out in the activist world was missing an inner world. He was missing all the outward life was not mirrored by a healthy inward life. Those are my words, not his, but that gets at what brought him to Church of the Savior when he met Gordon Cosby on Capitol Hill in the late 80s. And he heard a man talking about that inward and outward journey. And that brought him
Mm.
into a community of people doing good in the city. And then he
Mm.
found another woman in the city who was doing good. And that's Victoria, with whom he's been partnered and married for over 30 years, 35 years. And so I met Mike when I came to Church of the Savior in 2001, and he was already an elder that had been apprenticing with Gordon Cosby for, at that time, 20 years,
Mm.
15 years. And so Mike has been the straw that stirs the drink in many organizations, but he's kind of a silent straw. You don't know
Yeah.
Mike is around, but Mike's fingerprints are on a lot of the ministries here. Specifically in the last 20 years, his fingerprints and his presence has been with Faith and Money Network
Mm.
and doing lots of good trouble stuff there. And I've been working with Mike at Faith and Money Network for the past 15 years. And Mike is a North Star. He is a ballast for me. So, and he's also a spiritual companion. He and I have been writing spiritual reports to one another for the last 4 years in our little community, A Wider Table. I'll let him. Yeah, he's been in more good trouble than anybody else I know. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You see, I would have you sing Nat King Cole's version of Nature Boy, but we'll save that for another
Hey, I got Nat. I got Nat. I got Johnny Mathis.
But do you
It's
have
two.
Nature Boy? Do you
I
have
would have
Nature
to.
Boy? See,
I have
good,
Nature Boy.
good.
Yes,
You do?
yes. There was a boy. Bertice,
Please welcome
it's
to
too
Doing
early. It's too
Hopeful
early.
Things,
Oh my.
Reverend Mike Little,
Mike,
also known as
I'm sorry,
John
Mike.
Brown.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Wow.
Mike, I know,
Oh,
man. I
Poor Bertice. I'm sorry you had to put up
Poor
with him.
Bertice. Poor Bertice.
Yes.
How do you feel like
that's
that's
right.
Bertice has got me on a Bertice is like immediately moved into the big sister role. Like the moment I met her at Hunt and
Good.
Chuck's wedding, it was like I was like,
What?
okay, that's how it's gonna
What?
be.
What?
Yeah, well,
What?
it
So
is
needed. So needed.
so
Mike.
needed. Mike's been a big brother. Mike's been a big brother. I can't. I don't think I can handle the time with both of y'all in the same Zoom
Well, you
room
about to get it.
or what.
You about to
We're
get
about
it.
to get it.
We're about to get it,
Mike.
This is an
Mike.
intervention, really, Jimmy. This is an intervention.
Come
Surprise.
on, surprise. This is not a podcast. This is for your health and healing,
This
Jimmy.
is your life, Jim
Oh my
Marsh
God. I wouldn't
Jr.
put it I wouldn't put it past either of y'all. Mike has done some gangster things to me.
Ah,
Mike is a I call Mike's nickname. Get this, Bertice. I didn't think I was going to be mentioned this. Mike's nickname that I gave him, Mike and I are part of a community, and now we're a part of a small men's group, is the Bloodless Blade.
whoa. Well,
Let me explain that.
when I
Let me
first saw him,
explain
I
that.
thought John Brown. John Brown,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
that
yeah.
makes
Well, he's
sense.
got some John Brown in him, that's for sure. He will
Yeah.
flat out put himself out there and try to do a good thing and you know burn at the stake for it. But the bloodless blade is actually Mike can provide an accountability, a word of accountability, or a word of direction. And it's like you don't even know that he's doing it until the blade is all the way
Yeah.
in and then it's out, and there's not a drop of blood. It's like, oh my gosh,
Oh
he
wow.
just pierced something in me. So that's the so we
Mm.
got so the blood. So Mike is a Mike's one of the few people that I trust 100%. And uh, yeah, so he's the perfect guest to have on our
Yes.
first doing hopeful things episode,
Yeah.
because
It
Mike has
and
been doing hopeful things for a long, long time.
so let me just ask a question of you, Mike.
Yeah.
Do you know if there was one event, a moment that kind of moved you in this direction? Because there are plenty of people who can do hopeful things, but
Mm-hmm.
like John Lewis, he that was his life, and this
Mm-hmm.
is your life doing hopeful things, getting into good trouble. Was
Yeah.
there an event, a thing, a moment that kind of guided you that way?
Um, I have to give credit to my parents. We were always the stoop where all the kids showed up because maybe they didn't feel as comfortable with their parents as they felt with
Mm-hmm.
mine.
Mm.
I've told this to Jimmy. Kids would come up on Saturday to our house and asked if Mr. Little could come out and play, and just bypass me. You know, they
Get out.
they could even
Yeah.
say they'd say, "Could Mr. Yittle come out?" They couldn't even speak yet, but they knew he was lots of fun, and and we were always taking people in who were my mom would just she was so full of love and joy. You know how some churches have a bus ministry where they send a bus out to pick up kids who are can't get there or parents don't want to go. And she would always be at the bus waiting for the kids to come off because some of them weren't clean and didn't have decent
Mm.
clothes, and she would grab them and clean them up before other kids could make fun of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing I grew up around. And um like all of us, I did this. If I was 20 years old or 18, you would not be interviewing me today. People who knew me back then would be, when I started working for an alcohol and drug treatment program for homeless people, my parents were so happy that I was working for one and not in one,
Oh wow.
because
Wow.
so we don't
Yeah.
have to go into that, but
We
Yeah.
could.
it's been watching other individuals throughout my life
Mm.
that are doing hopeful things, and then in my 20s, really getting a sense of who Jesus was,
Hmm.
not a Hallmark card, not just about believing. In fact, he didn't say believe me hardly at all, if ever. He said follow me.
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think doing hopeful things, I've learned, is risky,
It is,
and it
which
should
is
be.
why Lewis called it good trouble, right? Because
Yeah.
it's troublesome. I want to just for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very hopeful for people who are still at that stage you were in at 20
Hmm.
to know they haven't missed their call, that it's
Yeah.
still waiting for them.
Mm.
Yeah, yes, amen to that.
Can you speak to that?
Well, I think it's a part of, Yes, I can. I think what's important, not only for those folks to remember it, but for the people around them not to give up on them. And that's what parents can do, teachers can
Wow.
do. They
Yep.
see something and they just want, they're like, they don't give up on them. Always invite, that's what Jesus did.
Oof.
Jesus, two things I loved about Jesus. He was
And just yeah,
relaxed.
that. I get the
Yeah.
blade thing. I get the
Get it?
blade
Yeah.
thing.
I told you. I told you.
He was relaxed and he was improper. He was always doing things he shouldn't do, having eaten with
Relaxed,
women,
relaxed, and
lounging.
improper.
No, when
He
that
was.
blade came out,
Oh,
my
interesting.
shoulders went down.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mike, tell
So
Bertice about
don't give
the.
up. Yeah, I just want to say don't.
Yeah.
And there were people that always left the door open for me when I was ready,
Mm.
and I went to them.
Mm.
And I
Yes.
remembered when I'd kind of hit a bottom. I did remember at my mom telling me when I left, when I walked out the door, she grabbed me and she said, "Don't forget your dad has been up every morning at 3:30 in the morning praying for you and your sister."
So you knew how
And
to find the Mr. Whittles.
yeah, and I went and I was like, that's wonderful, mom, da da da. But when I hit bottom, that's what I remembered. I remembered my
Wow.
dad has been up praying for me my whole life. Maybe there's something to this.
Mm.
And then I was away, so I couldn't go to him, but I went to people that doors were opened for me. They knew I was a knucklehead. They knew I was in trouble. Uh, I was always in trouble. I've been sent home from every school I've ever been in. I mean, we can go, from the second grade. I said the F word just to get attention and got sent to the principal. And the principal said, "You especially shouldn't say those words because your dad's a minister." Oh, he should have never said that. I've been rebelling ever since.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you stories
That opened up the lid on
about
the
that.
cussing jar.
Yeah, I just like no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
opened up the lid. Yeah,
Wow. So um I know Jimmy wanted to get in here. You found your
Mm.
way, and finding your way became a thing. I love that it was your parents who put it in you. That's so hopeful that doing hopeful things was what you were born with. I could see your mother cleaning up that kid so that nobody
Hmm.
laughed at them. And I mean, it brings tears to my eyes and to my heart. When you started the work, Jimmy said that you've been arrested 30 times.
not that many, but a good bit.
Okay.
Yeah, a
Okay,
good bit.
what for?
Uh, well, you name it. Most recent was the immigration stuff. Before that, when back in the 90s, when 94, 95, when the contract on America, what was called Contract for America, but it was really the Contract on America, where they were taking away everything. We sat down in the rotunda, a bunch of ministers, and sang and read scripture from Isaiah.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
the wars in El Salvador in front of the White House, housing issues,
mm.
blocking traffic, um, and things like that. Just where it felt like, as a white man, um, it I had all the opportunities afforded me. Not easy always, but yeah, and it just felt like I need to do more than talk. There are times when you need to do more than talk. You need to put your life and your body on the line, knowing that it's different when a white man goes to jail or prison.
Yeah.
Gets treated a little different, and that I saw
Yes.
that in there. I learned so much in those brief little stints of jail. It
Yes.
just amazing, and I knew I would get out. I knew I get a chance to you know. And at first, it was a little self-righteous. I'm so proud, Mike Little versus the United States of America, and you know, and that's when you're in your 20s, that's what you do. But I it's continued, and I'd love to not have to ever do it again, but it doesn't look like that's going to be possible with the way things are going.
Do you
Mike
feel
puts
it?
himself.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, Mike has a long history of putting himself in close proximity to people who have been on the margins, those who have been least, the last, the lost. So Mike has been a great example. Mike, you've been a great example of that, of proximity, and that's Brian Stevenson's line that wrote Just Mercy, that proximity changes things. The closer you get to people who have been marginalized, the more it becomes a personal thing. They have faces, they have names. So, Mike, you've allowed yourself to do that.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that has come from all of the work that you've done that's led up to now, that has given you, those are the breadcrumbs that you've been following. I think that's where your deepest joy has been, is to be at the world's deepest hunger, the Frederick Buechner quote
yeah,
that I mentioned
yeah,
earlier.
yeah. That has definitely been a part of it. Working with Mother Teresa for a little bit.
Are you in a documentary
You,
with Mother Teresa?
no, I'm not.
Okay, because you look, when you said it, I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
there's a guy that looks like that. I didn't know
But
that about you. I didn't
yeah,
know.
and I was a spiritual director for a little bit for with men on death row in Baltimore. I learned
Wow.
so much from meeting their families. Again, it's risky trying to bring the two families together. This comes from Helen Prejean, Dead Man
Sure.
Walking, and her work. We had a chance to meet her and have her at our dinner table, my wife and
Tell
I.
me
And
about that bringing together.
mm, yeah, well, it her work, and of course the people who have done um, the acts of violence and the person that has been killed, trying to get those families to reconcile. I mean, talk about
Mm,
risk, and
Hmm.
that it never worked for us. People, they wouldn't even answer the phone. But I learned one of the horrible executions of a dear friend. Going to see him right before he was executed. Um,
mm,
there wasn't anything so dark that I can think of that I've been around, both
Mm.
in the prison and then outside. As we're on one side of the street, um, with our "Thou shalt not kill" signs and praying with their family, with his family. The other side, people with you know burn the what and drinking and having a blast and excited about the death of this man because he'd killed a police officer.
Mm.
And of course, he was high on PCP, didn't know what he was doing. And that was one of the darkest times I can remember. And right before that, my
yeah.
first son was born. And I sat with that baby with the most joyful, you can't imagine the joy. Well, you can maybe, but
Sure.
and I remember going home from the execution and grabbing him out of the crib and just holding him.
Mm.
And I thought, this is what the life of faith. How do we hold the opposites?
Yeah.
How do we do that? I
Yeah.
don't, and it has to be done with hope. It has to be done with realness and joy.
Yes.
I don't trust anybody's spirituality that doesn't have a sense of humor.
Right. Right.
I just
Yeah.
don't. You have to be able to hold both and not be taken out by either side.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to be Pollyanna, and just think, oh, everything's gonna be all right when I get to heaven, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I don't want that. I also don't
Mm,
want to forget that a rose is still a rose, and even in the
mm,
darkness of, you know, uh, and then I look back at people that have lived through near genocides, Native Americans, people kidnapped Africans that built this country, the singing songs. I mean,
Yeah.
how dare they?
yeah.
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 So I can't cry in my milk. Come on. I
Mm.
learned so much from people around me, and
mm,
so
What there are so many things that are flowing and growing. I'm going to tell the story as untriggering as possible. I had to go in for surgery, and there was a mistake, and something was left inside. It caused me to have
mm,
sepsis,
mm,
and in that process of healing, I was in there for 12 days or 14 days or something after going having to go back. In that time, I remembered some. I mean, I knew I never forgot it, but I hadn't released it to the point of healing.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
this moment of being violated came back, and I had the time to really process and heal from it. But I also had the opportunity to invite everybody in who
Mm.
caused this to
Mm.
Mm.
be forgiven.
Oof.
And so,
Wow.
I remember the surgeon sitting on the bed and saying, "What kind of church do you go to? What
Yeah.
what is this?"
Yes,
And
yes.
so what you've brought up for me is we don't get close enough to feel that Good Friday moment that the person being
Oh,
executed
yes.
is experiencing. And
Yeah,
then we
Yes.
sit in judgment, to, to think that couldn't be me.
right.
But at 20, it was you. And one little thing, being high on something that was laced with something or anything, could have made it you.
Could have been me.
That's
That's
right.
right. That's right. And that's what I think when I came to town, I worked I lived in a volunteer house and worked a soup kitchen on Capitol Hill.
Mm,
And I remember very clearly serving food and saying that could be my dad across this. That is somebody's
Yep.
dad. First of all, it's somebody's mom, it's
Yep.
somebody's
Hmm.
kid, it's somebody's uncle, and that could be mine.
yeah.
And wouldn't I want to be treated with respect and care and looking in the eye? And
Yes.
and again, I believe I learned that from my parents and growing up.
I want to ask you, it's powerful. I want to also, it's talk about the wider table, because you don't just get down in, the nitty gritty. Sometimes I'll meet people who think the only place to minister is with the hungry and the homeless, and sometimes it's the lonely who don't have anybody to
Mm.
reach.
That's right.
You also use resources to do incredible work with the arts, and black and brown people involved in the arts. Can you tell us about that work?
Sure. It's both in the inner spiritual community that Jimmy and I are a part of, and in the work that I do, Faith and Money Network, that both of us are a part of. Where and I would add to the loneliness, people are miserable with extreme amounts of wealth too,
Yes.
and that's something we don't,
Yeah.
and even myself, when I first got involved, I was like, oh, poor babies, let me have some of that burden, right? You're thinking that, but
Yes.
it's not. It is. I
It's
I
not.
mean, it is a. They have been sold, if you will, a bill of goods that money will make and things and consumption will make you happier.
Yes. Yes.
And it's just not true. Now everybody needs enough to
Yes.
to live and to feed their kids, and that I'm not saying that. People will say to me, usually wealthy people will say, um, well, wealth doesn't buy happiness, and I'm like, true, and neither does poverty.
Mm,
So there's enough. That's our belief in what we do. There is, God created the world in such a way, I believe, that there's enough for everyone to have what they need,
mm,
as long as we can learn how to share, and we
mm,
just haven't done that. We don't know how to share. There's a Haitian proverb. I don't know the Creole, but it kind of, the translation is, God provides, God does not distribute. That's up to us. We have to, and we've done a
wow.
lousy
I love
job.
the
We have
Haitian.
not.
Listen, I don't wear t-shirts, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd wear one with that on it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
That is
Mike and I,
powerful.
Mike took me to Haiti in 2018, and it's my second trip there. And that's when I learned I also, um, I knew it then to be able to say it in Creole, but it's a beautiful proverb that said, "Cooked food has no owner." Same thing,
Manger
same
quit,
sense
page
of
net.
sharing, same sense of.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Yep.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
Tell
Yep.
us what you do with wider table. Tell us about that work. What does it mean,
Yep.
a wider
Yeah.
table?
Yeah. So we both grew up spiritually here at the Church of the Savior, and think it's, if not one of the best church model. At least for us, it was great because it matches the inward and the outward together. That
And
Jimmy
you're an
mentioned
ordained minister as well.
here at the church. At the church, yes,
Yes.
yes, and uh, and you join our communities based on a calling outside of yourself. And so that's how you join.
Mm,
Because we've learned that sharing groups are wonderful, but you can only share so much about your own life and your own pain, and it starts to get boring, to be honest, and people won't show up. But if you are coming together to do the inward work, which is important, based on a calling outside of yourself from God to the suffering of the world, that's when you got to have a chair for Elijah. That's when the Spirit
Yeah.
kicks in. But if
Yes.
you're just getting together to talk about what your dad did to you, what your mom did to you, that's fine. But those should have a beginning and an end, right?
oof.
You need to have something that's bigger than yourself and
Say it.
impossible
Mm-hmm.
for you to do. And
Yes.
our outward calling is to close the racial wealth gap.
Mm,
That's what we both feel called to, and we do it in little ways, and we do it in big ways for us, and supporting African American documentarian, to helping uh, young folks, through some school. We bank. We do, and we try to encourage people to bank black, invest black, um, buy black, and work for reparations. And until that's going to happen, which it probably is going to be a little while, unfortunately, we repair, we do what we can to get access to people, get money to people who normally wouldn't have access to it. And
mm.
we don't have a big budget, but we do what we can, and um, uh, it just seems right. And we help people at Faith and Money Network. We help people move their money, because money is power. Wherever you're banking,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving that bank institution power. And a lot of times people don't know that they're using your power and your money for things you're against, because
I,
you're not paying
Yep.
attention to
it is.
where they're using their money.
Let me right now. Let me ask you how people can contact you. Where would they give? Is there a website? Is there something that they can
Yep.
go to?
The best thing would be to go on our website, faithandmoneynetwork.org, and look me up, or Mike at faithandmoneynetwork.org. Email me and just say, I want to learn more. And we have a lot of information. And then if they want to make that step, then I would connect them with an investor that, because they're so excited about this, they will help somebody do it for free. At least they used to. I don't know if they're still doing it, but it's not that much. To take some of your money and put it places that respect your values. For instance, a lot of people, myself included, are against private prisons, but the big
Yes.
banks support private prisons like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So while you might be marching on the
Mm-hmm.
street against your church, against private prisons, your money is supporting them, and you don't
Mm,
even know it.
mm.
So we want to help
Predatory
people make
lending.
those connections.
Yeah.
Predatory lending,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, you're seeing now
Yeah.
the website across the screen. You can go to
Oh, great, great.
faithandmoneynetwork.org
Yeah.
and connect to find out how you can give whatever. It doesn't take, it's amazing.
It's
It
not
doesn't
much.
take as much as people think to kind of
That's
help
right.
start to right the ship.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. And it allows for one of our favorite places is Hope Credit Union out of Jackson, Mississippi, and they work in Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and they help people with this money we're talking about purchase a home for the first time, send their
Wow.
kid to college for the first time, buy a car for the first time. And why not let your money be used for good? Doesn't that belong to
Yes.
God too, or is it just 10%? And
Mm,
most people don't give 10%. The average is 2%. if you look at the studies, which is sad. And we try to flip that. We try to keep maybe
Yeah.
10% and give away 90%.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, you
So we're not
John
very
Brown and all over the
popular.
place.
Yeah, when I go to churches, it's not people get up and walk out on me once in a while, but that's okay.
Well, talking about Mike, when you go into churches and talk about money, or when you and I are talking about money with folks, and we say at our church community that we share resources, but we also share what money we have, and so a full financial
Hmm.
disclosure, along with something that Faith and Money Network developed and that Mike has been teaching for a long time, is how to do a money autobiography, your relationship with money, and then to give proportionally, not just a tithe. So Mike's the one that taught me a tithe is just the ante, is just the chip to begin to play the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Mike,
I
that's
love the yeah yeah. I love when um, people will say, "Well, Mike, tithe is not in the New Testament." And I said, "No, that's true. It's not. It's in the Hebrew Scriptures. Jesus just says, 'Give it all away.' So if you want
yes.
to go that route, that's fine." And then they're
You-
like, "Well, maybe the tithe isn't so
Maybe I'll
bad
go
after
back to
all."
the
Mike, what's that?
Hebrews.
Mike, give us that line. That's the best line about people spend their money.
Ah,
Is that
yeah,
Bertice?
yeah,
Check this out.
yeah. Uh, People spend their money. Let's see. People read the Bible as if they have no money, and they spend their money as if they've not read the Bible.
Oh,
Or the
it's
And that's true for
Gospels.
me.
The
let me
Gospels,
Yeah, the
tell
yeah.
you
Gospels.
something.
The
You
Gospels. Yeah.
I several examples jumped in my mind, and I won't go there because I would get into good trouble because I'd have to name names, and, and it is absolutely the truth. I think, and I love Jimmy what you brought up about the financial biography, because our relationship with money is very very tied. It's still tied to what my mother called a nation, the greatest nation in the world because it had free labor on stolen land.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And where you are in that equation is crazy however you look at it.
Yeah.
And that needs to
Yes.
be healed.
Yeah.
And so you're
Yes.
talking about us not only, it's not a problem having it, it's a problem that we don't share it.
Right.
That we don't, somebody needed some furniture, and I called my contractor and said, I'm going to need some help, and I hope you can do this with me and let me know what it'll cost. Somebody needs some furniture, and I got some. And he said, well, why would it cost me if you're willing to give your furniture?
Mm.
And it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
like I have some big storage unit somewhere. It's furniture that's in my house that I don't always sit on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can move something else around. But I think sometimes doing it and inviting somebody into helping with you gives them the opportunity to say, I'm joining for the same reason because no one's invited me to do this good work because it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And I think you going around talking about it in churches, even when people walk out, is the only way they know about it.
Yeah. And the money autobiography is actually a free download on the website that was
Oh,
scrolled
excellent.
across too. Yeah, yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can get
And
that download.
there's a generosity assessment you can do for free and we're working on a
Brilliant.
genealogy, something to see because a
The
lot of
money
us think, oh,
genealogy.
I've raised my this is my money, and I and then you go back and say, oh, you know what, your uncle left you a farm that he happened to take from the Lakota in Minnesota, and we don't. So we're working on that too, and that's not going to be
Wow.
very popular. I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
either. It's not sure.
So,
Yeah, I could tell. Go ahead, Jim.
Bertice, we've got just a minute more with Mike. I just want to say, Mike is able to talk about that, not joking about the bloodless blade, but Mike's able to talk about, he's one of the few people I know that's able to talk about such sensitive issues, but in a way that comes from this Midwestern guy, that Mike's a all shucks guy, but he's also a guy
Mhm.
that tells the truth. And I think telling the truth in love is the way in which you are best. It's where people can hear that. If I know that it's
Yeah.
coming in love and it's packaged. So
Well,
I
he
just
and
want to
he
say,
and
Mike,
he
that's a
literally lives that
Thank you,
way,
Jim.
right?
Thank you.
that's
So
right.
I
Yeah, yeah,
also, when you first described it, and then when I felt it, um, it's the way the Holy Spirit moves. Holy Spirit doesn't beat us upside the head and call us names.
Hmm.
that's
It
right.
lovingly corrects and directs if we're willing to hear it. And I love the line, Mike, about God provides, but we have to distribute.
Distribute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That will change every, we don't, I think we lose our faith about the ability for God to provide because we're not willing to distribute.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
And
if
it's related to how our system is set up. It's not
That's
just
exactly
charity.
right. That's what
It's
I'm saying
related to
about the
how
free
we have
labor on
things
stolen
set up
land. Yeah.
and why it's important we vote. And I know that can,
Yeah.
sometimes people think, well, what use is it? But we've got to vote locally, in the,
Yes.
we need to spend time in front of this, in the, the councils, the city councils,
Yes.
because that's where the city gets carved up,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
we want to sit in rooms and talk about Jesus. That's where we need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too is down in those, wherever, whatever town or city you're in. That's where stuff happens,
Listen,
and they
I'm
would love it if you don't show up.
banking on you not showing up, and
Banking
I've
on
Yeah,
you.
when we're
that's right.
done today, I'm going to vote,
Good.
because yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We don't. My mother
And it's
had this
not
thing.
perfect. It's not perfect, but
No, of course
we
not.
do what
But
we can.
neither am I. My mother had a thing
Same.
where no child of mine will not donate their organs and vote. I don't know
Nice.
why,
I
but that
love
was her
that.
thing.
I
That
love
was
that.
her thing. And
I
then
love that.
she's like, we're fighting for this thing over here. We got to do it. And
Yeah.
somebody, yeah, give it up. You don't need it.
Well, thanks for
Well,
having me, and
Mike,
keep
thank you
doing
for
No, no,
hopeful
thank you
no,
for
things.
coming. Thank you for being
Mike.
our first guest.
I could talk to you forever, and I plan to. I want people to go to the site to learn more about it, to just learn more. You don't have to go there to give, but you should certainly go to that site to learn. And Mike, I just want to thank you for the work that you've done. We met through some film projects that you're supporting, and the work that you're supporting is going to change the world. And just like Crazy John Brown, who said, abolish this slavery thing, you're doing the work to abolish the gap between us financially, spiritually, emotionally. Thank
Mm.
you, thank you, thank you. I feel blessed knowing you. And
Oh,
you are the very definition of a hopeful thing, and being willing
Amen.
to sit in traffic, to block the traffic and get in good trouble. Thank you for who you are and for the example you give.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you both.
You bet. Well said, Vertice. Wow.
Whew. Jimmy, I'm
Well,
so glad I met you so that I could meet Reverend Mike Little.
Mike is yeah. Um, when people say, "Well, that's the real deal," you get um, Mike is that. Mike's
Yeah,
also a person with there is no guile in that man. You meet him and he is who he is, and he's going to be the same person in every room with every person all the time, and that's a
yeah.
that's a consistency that I think is rare.
So,
There's no performative. There's not a performative Mike and a relaxed Mike. Mike is just he is who he is at home at
yeah,
and I've seen him in every place you can see somebody, and
I
it's a
think
perfect
it
guy. Yeah.
comes from a sense of belonging. And he talked about that with his parents, the way
Yes.
they exemplified that in front of him,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
don't code switch when you don't need to. If nobody's making you
Right.
feel like you don't belong in that room, you don't have to try to fit yourself into
Yeah.
that room, right? So
Yes. Yes.
being who you are in those moments, it's a very, very powerful thing. And he is a powerful witness.
Yes. I think a really cool thread came in that we were talking before Mike came in around the synchronicity around showing up and that the universe conspiring. And then when you put
Yeah.
when you begin to walk, then the Spirit can meet you. It made me think of it's attributed to Saint Francis that God has no hands or feet on earth but yours. And then
Mm.
Mike comes in and talks about his walking in these spaces, these gaps, the proximity, and then his quote about which I've only heard Mike say that I think one other time around uh, God provides, but God doesn't distribute. That is the nature and essence of co-creatorship. That's it.
That's changing
You and
me
I didn't.
forever.
Well, you and I didn't plan this. We knew that. Look, I know Mike super well, and I know that I don't know what Mike's going to come with. But the fact that they came together by virtue of how we started, all because I'd like to add, this all began with fabric. There are beautiful things happening in our movements, and they're not happening because we're planning it. They're happening because we're showing up. And half of the battle, I think, for not battle, but for spirit to work, we just have to show up. And
Mm.
the Bible is full of stories where people just answered a call, but they had no idea what that call entailed.
Mm.
They said, go, come. I, so I think showing up and saying, "Here I am," the great hymn, "Here I am, Lord," just showing up and seeing what happens, and then that's when we meet the way, and the way meets us,
Yes.
and the place where our deepest joy meets the deepest hunger of the world. And
Yeah.
so I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all the hopeful things we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for all the duets we're gonna sing. I'm grateful for all the.
Oh no, not the duets.
We should have a clothes swap. I think we should. I've got some pearl snap shirts. I think you would look nice in.
Oh, Lavash, thank you all for
Lord,
joining us
yes.
on doing hopeful things, and you'll be able to join us many, many times more. We're going to continue doing this hopeful thing, hoping that you find the hope that you need. I love you.
I love you too. That's a wrap.